5 years.
That's great.
Right.
And what are some of the challenges you see among the students in terms of their social and emotional growth?
I think predominantly a large issue is that a lot of our students, as normal human beings, are going through a lot of huge issues at home or in the community. And when they come to school, we're so focused on academics and on test scores, and you have an exam this Friday, and have you prepared for this? And the juniors are SAT prepping, the seniors are trying to apply for colleges. And so we really lose sight of how are you doing as a person, right? And so when I have a student who maybe didn't have breakfast that morning because they had to prepare their younger siblings to go to school, they don't really care about what it is that's going on in the Spanish classroom. And so I think that the biggest problem is that we simply don't provide a space for students to be able to vent and to ask for help and to say how they're doing, because everything is just so focused on academic. I think the larger goal for me, a lot of our students feel unsafe coming to school, and not unsafe because of gun violence or because of drug use on campus or anything like that, but just unsafe because of what their peers might say to them or not say to them, you know? And so there are students that I think that over time you sort of pick up on, like, oh, that student's always, in the front office during lunch, right? Or that's weird, I didn't notice this kid ever hanging out with XYZ people. And so I just don't, if we think about it, our students spend most of their time and most of their life in high school in that building, right? If you do the math and how many hours a day they're spending there. And if that is an environment where they don't feel safe, that's a huge problem. And I don't think a child can learn if they don't feel safe and if they don't feel cared and loved for. And so my goal with this project is not, I think it'd be unrealistic to think we're going to solve this big problem, right, through this video, or through this project, or through this carnival. But I think that if we start having that conversation and start putting a face on this and start accepting that this is a problem, and that often as educators we ignore it because we feel incompetent, and it's like, well, what am I supposed to do, right? And so I really want to help these girls. I love that it's student-led, and I want them to empower themselves and empower their peers and empower their teachers and staff members to do something about this. We can't have kids feeling unsafe on campus.
My name is Kiana, and the personal experience I have with bullying, in middle school, I was bullied by a group of kids. They were all boys, and they would just talk about my appearance, and that drove me to become a bully. So in order to defend myself, to feel better about what they were doing to me, I would bully them. And now I know that I should have done better, and I'm growing more responsible and more sympathetic of other people's feelings. My name is Lorena, and as well, me too, in middle school. Well, it started in 5th grade. I was bullied by a group of boys as well. And towards middle school, it was like they used to say hurtful things about my appearance as well. And I used to not want to go to school. I used to cry, and the teachers would ask me if something was wrong with me, but I would never speak up on it. And today, as I look back, I didn't know there were resources in my environment, in my community, to help me. And I want to help other kids know that there's people out there who really care about them.
My name's Emily, and one personal event I had to deal with bullying was in elementary, when I used to be by myself a lot in elementary, so it was really rare to see me talk to people, and if I did, it was either with teachers or just with only 2 or 3 people. I would try to avoid big groups, so one time a group of kids came up to me and they started making fun of me, calling me names, talking about how I look, and the next day they came back to make fun of me again, and they did it I'm sorry, I can't get this right. Okay. Yeah. Well, they were bullying me for quite a while until I told someone, and that teacher didn't do anything. So they kept going on, and then when we went a grade up, they stopped for a while, and then they came back to like keep messing with me. So it was like I couldn't rather guess if they were gonna leave me alone or not. So I had to deal with that.
All right, I'm going to ask the second question. No, you're doing great. Don't be sorry. My second question is, what is the impact in your personal environment, your internal environment, and also your external environment, like the friends, your relationship with family, with teachers, when you have personally experienced bullying? What is the impact with yourself and with other people in terms of relationships when you're being bullied?
For me, it's kind of socially. It's hard for me to get close to someone, and I'm more of an introvert, so no one really knows the true me until like I get comfortable with people. And I like being by myself. And I don't trust others very easily, so I don't have many friends, and the friends that I do have, I can trust them, but it's certain things that I don't want to say because the experience that I've had, and it's just hard for me to get close with people. With me, well, during the time I was getting bullied, I used to for some reason I didn't like since I used to listen to what they were saying, and I didn't I felt bad about myself. Like I used to ask myself like, why am I here, and all this other stuff. And with like my relationship with other people, yeah, I have like trust issues, and I don't say certain things because I don't want them to feel a certain way about me. Like it's like I have to be a certain way for someone to like me, so I don't say certain things because I feel like it'll push people away.
When I was being bullied, sometimes I used to think that like my family didn't even care because some of the people that would bully me was my family. So like till this day, I still don't get along with my family. It's like I don't even talk to them, and when we do, it's like, oh hi, bye. It's like they don't acknowledge my presence. It's like I'm not even there. So that's like, yeah.
I'm going to share a little bit. So when I was a teacher, there was a 12-year-old girl who had taken her life from being bullied and also broken relationships with her boyfriend. Now, in your experience, have you personally considered, or have you met people who have considered, have you talked about it? Were there moments where the pain felt unbearable, and what got you through it? What got you through it? Pretty personal stuff.
For me, what got me through it was in middle school, I met this girl. Her name was Daphne. I still talk to her. She been through a lot, and she was the one who helped me. Like, she gave me comfort, technically. Like, she made me feel like I had somebody there. And we always ended up being together. We made a couple friends. The longer we went together, like talking about this stuff. So I was able to make friends that I could compare to.
The first thing that got me through it was kind of just being more about myself. I went more into myself. I started reading, and I just didn't spend a lot of time with others. But that didn't work for a long time. It was more like a Band-Aid. I fully healed last summer, when I know not everybody believed in the same thing, but I was able to get closer in my relationship with God, and I was able to heal from those experiences. Well, When I was in middle school, I knew like people who, I don't know what was the reason, but they used to like cut themselves. But like they were my friends, and I would tell them like they never told me like reasons why they would do it. But since I got closer to them, like I would tell them like you shouldn't do that. Like I didn't know what was the point for it, but as I got older, I see like people get bullied and they just want to just take their lives because of it. And for me healing, I heal because I have younger siblings, and I need to be like strong for them. I can't just like just let go. I need to like I don't know how to put it. I have to be like an example. I can't just give up. I need to keep striving and trying to do my best, even when like obstacles such as bullying came in my way. I have to be strong.
Great. And being part of this organization, how has this helped you, and what do you want to see happen with this organization?
I want to see more people like being aware that this is happening and it's not going to go away.
It has helped me relate to others because for a long time I felt like I was alone in this, and now that I see that it's not just me, it's more people that go through it. And I want to see more people come out about their experiences. I don't want them to be like me and just kept it to themselves. I want more people to stand up for themselves.
Me as well. I want people to be more open-minded because some people think like, oh, bullying was a long time ago. Like they don't really realize what's going on at this time. And our project will really open people's eyes so that they can see and know that these kind of things really happen, and there's like evidence to back it up, and we can have more supporters to help us get the word known.
Have you or your family ever experienced bullying?
Yes. So I think whenever I'm asked that question, it's not the first time I've been asked. My thought immediately goes to my brother. I have a brother who's 3 years older than me, and the attention was always on David growing up. And I didn't quite understand why until I was older. When I was 4 and David was 7, so as a second grade student, he was always bullied by one student in particular who used to beat him up at school and throw things at him. And it got to the point where David rode the bus to and from school, the school bus. And so the other students started getting on David's bus, and he would get off at the same stop and chase my brother, like just sprint after him, and David was like running for his life quite frequently, until a few times he chased them all the way to our front door where we used to live at the time. And of course David was terrorized, didn't want to go to school, and my mom went and talked to the administration at the school and said like, hey, this is going on, I don't know why the student is even on this bus. My mom was always very vocal about things of that nature. One day, so the administration said, hey, we'll work on it, we're not sure why the student is on this bus, but we'll get on it. And there wasn't an immediate change, and so one day David got fed up and he decided that he was going to chase after this kid. So they both got off the bus, and the other student kicked him in the shins, and so he like fell. And so David got up and chased after him, and in the process he crossed a really big intersection that he wasn't supposed to cross because it was on the other side of the apartments we lived in. So he chased him down. Whether or not he ever caught him, I don't know, but at some point he just was like, forget it, and started walking back home. And he waited for the green light that David shares, but everyone thought, so anyway, he waited, and when he was crossing the street, a car ran the red light and hit him and shot him quite far into, down the road, so much so that when paramedics arrived, they thought that he was jaywalking and that's why he got hit by the car. And so it was a hit and run. Another car chased the car down, and it was a young kid, found him, brought him back. David was in ICU for several hours, and so we weren't sure if I was a kid. And so my memory of that is just my dad picked me up from school, and I didn't understand why my dad was picking me up. And it's so funny if we think back to like memories as a child, like it doesn't make sense to us. I remember my dad picking me up, and I arrived to this big like white place, which now I realize was the hospital. And I was, where's my mom? Like I didn't know. And then I heard my brother screaming, from far away, and I knew that was his voice. And I remember just my mom like trying to hold it together and saying like, I'm here, like, aquí estoy, David, aquí estoy. And I saw him, and he was surrounded by all of these doctors and nurses trying to save his life. And he made it, right? And he was fine. But in that moment, it saved his life. But as a result, David, a couple of things. He lost complete hearing in his right ear. Doctors had the hope that as he was older, maybe there was an earpiece or something that he could use to recuperate that. But I don't know the technical term, but he's lost complete hearing forever in his right ear. But more so than that, that was, I think, the physical response. But after that moment, even if you think about a 7-year-old kid, like, they're so young, but he just completely disengaged from school, hated going, hated the memory of being at that same campus where that student still was. And I don't think he ever recuperated from that. And so, while I can remember maybe being name called, but nothing to the point where I can really say like I was a victim of bullying directly. But I saw that impact on my brother, and that was really hard for me just to watch him. I've always said to him that he's smarter than I am, and I really do believe that, but he barely graduated from high school, and just was very independent and didn't socialize very much from that moment.
How was your family able to heal?
That's a good question. I don't think that they did. This is still a story that my mom has a really hard time talking about. If I ask her about it to this day, and it's been like over 20 years since that happened, and she'll still start crying. She blames herself. She will always say, I remember that day I was running late from work. I should have been at the bus stop to pick David up and walk with David, and like make sure that he got home safe. And she talks about, she says I was minutes away from there. I remember los mayolos, the kid that he used to hang out with, they like ran up, and I heard the car accident, and I saw these kids running up, and she says I was there, like I was grabbing my stuff, like had I left earlier, and she gets really upset about it. And David now like will crack jokes about being bullied, and he has a son now, and so he'll say stuff like, all right, Sonny, like just don't get bullied like your dad, and he like laughs about it. But I think that's a way that a lot of times we try to heal by making jokes out of what's happened to us, and so I see him doing that. My dad I've never talked to about the situation, but I don't know that they have healed.
I'm Sandra Farrell. I'm 15 and I attend Animo Watts Preparatory Academy.
Perfect. Okay. So tell me a little bit of your experience either bullying others or being bullied growing up.
I've always been kind of chunky, so since middle school I've always been called fat. I was also called ugly. Yeah, just that. I mind my own business. I don't like getting myself into things that I know I can't get myself out of.
Yeah, because I know Michaela was saying earlier that there's a lot of people don't want to be labeled a snitch.
Yeah.
If they try to intervene.
Mhm.
So, in a way, people tend to not look anymore because if they feel like if they find out something, they have to do something about it, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
What's that feeling like? When you
You can't say anything.
Yeah.
I think it's stressful because you're debating on like if you should say something or not. Like your response is like really important because you don't know if you might help someone
Or hurt them.
Yeah.
Because can you give me, like, you don't have to name names, but can you give us a specific example as a child or middle school or high school where, like, you saw something and you didn't want to say anything, or you heard about something? You didn't want to say anything? Okay.
It was in elementary. I don't know what was her name, but they used to like make pig noise, like sounds there, like oink oink and stuff. Like I would see it, but I wouldn't say anything.
And why wouldn't you?
I don't know.
It's not your fault. I just want to know why.
I really don't
What were you afraid of?
know. I wasn't afraid of anything, but I just didn't. I didn't say anything. I didn't have the audacity to say anything.
Because you felt like it wasn't your job, right? Okay. And did it feel like you couldn't do anything about it anyway?
No, I could have, but I just didn't. Like that's so wrong of me.
I mean, there's no judgment.
Yeah.
I mean, because this you're not like abnormal. A lot of kids do what you do. So I think as long as you're honest with yourself, I think you can reach a lot of other kids like you. So, like, what are some things that you think were the reasons why you didn't say anything when you could have?
I didn't know her, but that shouldn't be an excuse to not say anything.
It's okay. I mean, I'm not here to judge you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, a lot of kids out there are doing exactly what you're doing. And I'm not saying there's any right or wrong, but we're trying to figure out why. Why do you think that you didn't? What were some of the, was it the social environment? People just don't do that? Is it what cool people just don't do? Like, what is it? It's okay, take your time. I know it's deep stuff, but it's the deep stuff that matters.
Yeah. I was with like two other girls, and they were the ones doing it.
So they were your friends.
Yeah.
So in a way, it was conflict.
Like around that time, it was like in second grade. I was a really lonely girl, so like they were my only friends.
So you didn't want to.
Yeah.
You didn't want to make enemies out of it.
Yeah.
Because you were afraid that they might make fun of you if you said something.
They actually did make fun of me.
And you still were their friends.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was better than not having friends at all. Yeah, and that's actually very common with a lot of kids, you know. I think a lot of kids have to deal with that. Like, good kids that know what the right thing to do, but they don't want to, like, piss off the bullies. They want to be friends with the bullies because they don't want to be the target. Have you ever been a bully? It's okay. We're just going to be honest here.
Yeah, I have. But I feel bad and then I say sorry. Because, like, I think about it like, wow, like, you're so mean. Like, you shouldn't say things like that.
Yeah. What caused you to be a bully?
The things they do.
What were some of the things they did that triggered you to get angry?
They wouldn't stay quiet. Yeah, cause in my English class, that was a class I had a mental breakdown. I have this one kid that wouldn't shut up, and like it seems like they bully the teacher.
Yeah.
So I was like, shut up, like be quiet, respect her and stuff.
Yeah. So you're just speaking up.
Yeah.
That's not bullying.
But like I feel, cause I called him a little.
Yeah. You just called names. So
Yeah.
you lost your temper.
Yeah.
Okay. So in a way, like, name calling is not the solution. Were there other incidents where you've targeted a person and just consistently made fun of that person and made them feel horrible on a day-to-day basis? Okay. No. Okay. So, what are some? Are any of your friends personally affected by bullying?
I'm gonna be really honest. I only have one friend, and it's Kayla.
That's great.
Yeah, I don't really socialize with a lot of people.
And why is that?
I don't know.
I'm sure there's a reason.
I don't want to say I don't like people because that's not a really good answer, but
What is it about people that you don't like?
you don't know what to expect from them.
Unpredictability.
Yeah.
So,
Like them going behind your back and stuff.
it's hard to trust people.
Yeah, it really is.
So, tell me about that. What's it like? What are some incidents where you've seen people backstab each other, and how has that made you not want to make other friends?
There was once where like a group of girls would like date each other's boyfriends and stuff. It's actually in my high school that's going on. It's like how shady they are. It's like, do I really want to be friends with them? No. So I prefer like only socializing with one person.
Yeah.
I stay away from like problems like that.
What are your personal like experiences with bullying growing up?
I think like the one that I can immediately think of, which is something that has impacted my life substantially, was in 7th grade. I had a best friend. She was picking on someone else who was also my really good friend, and he was very short for a 7th grader. And so I like very jokingly was like, hey, like don't hit him. And she like took it really offensively. And so for the next week, she proceeded to terrorize my life. And this was my best friend. And so she named called me. She started spreading things around like about me. She started like kind of putting my personal life on blast. For that whole week, I literally did not have my best friends. And it was possibly like the worst experience of my life, and it culminated with like her pretty much organizing this whole kind of event for like us to fight. And so there I was like an idiot trying to watch someone else get into a fight, because you know when you're young you're like, oh, I want to see what a fight looks like. And so I was there, and then my friends literally set me up to fight her or to get pretty much get jumped. And so we got into a fight and we fought, and that was like the only fight that I have ever been in. But I think like as I was fighting, and I remember just thinking like, what am I doing? Like this is supposed to be my best friend, and here we are fighting. And so ultimately they separated us, and then my mom went on this like whole tangent about like she needs to get arrested, and it was like such a horrible experience for me. And so my mom didn't know that any of that had happened until my teacher, my 7th grade teacher, her name was Miss Falopa. She kind of had picked up on, oh, this is happening. And so she, one day very randomly in class was like, hey, like you're gonna help my teacher, my teacher friend, who's like next door, you're gonna help her carry some boxes to the main office. And I was like, cool, sure. And so as I was walking with her, that teacher friend told me, she was like, hey, you know, Miss Falopa and I have noticed that this has been going on, and so we really want you to go talk to one of the deans right now. And so because I was a good student and I always kind of did what I was told, I did it. But I think that under different circumstances, I don't think I would have talked. But I did, and I came back to class, and my ex-best friend just kind of sat there crying, and everyone was like huddling around her, and people were saying like really mean things in class, and my teacher was doing like her best to kind of shield me from all of that. But I just kind of sat in class and like I continued to do my work, and I didn't engage. And then she kept me after school, and she drove me home. She got permission from my mom, And yeah, and so like that was kind of like the whole thing. But like up until that point, I was like literally making myself sick. I would make myself throw up in the morning. I would like use like the blow dryer on my face to like give myself a fever. It was a pretty horrible experience. And so like whenever I think about middle school, I like cringe and I like don't want to think about it because it was like such a horrible time in my life. And it just like got so much better once I like removed myself from that environment and I went to a school in a completely different area.
So ladies, maybe like one more question. I'm gonna go let your kids in and then just, you know, you can put this on your whiteboard.
Cool, yes.
Thank you.
How are you able to heal from that experience?
My brother always told me, I think, so after I went, so I was a part of a middle school that was in my area and I had to go to a different high school in a completely different area. It wasn't necessarily by choice. I had to go to that high school because it was a high school that all of my family members had gone through, so it was more like tradition. And so I remember crying. And so like even though these people were so horrible to me, I was still, I was always scared of like things that were unknown. And it wasn't until my brother sat me down, because like my brother and I have a really, really close relationship. He literally is my best friend. He was like, look, like friends are gonna come and go. You're gonna eventually gonna develop new friendships and you're gonna like find your place. He's like, to be quite honest, your high school friends might not even like last very long and you're not gonna talk to these people like ever again, so it shouldn't matter. And quite frankly, I think it was time. I think like having those conversations like with people that I trusted, learning how to like pick and choose like who my friends were and like thinking about like who do I really want to be around and who's really going to be like a positive experience or have a positive, yeah, kind of like a positive experience on my life. I think that's what ultimately helped me heal. I mean, I think it's very cliche, but like time heals everything. Like I think it's really true, and I think that's true in all aspects of life. Yeah, I don't think I did anything specifically though. Yeah. Do you want to ask me one more question since we have like 2 minutes?
What would be any advice you would give to a student currently who's going through bullying right now?
I think that it gets better. No matter how hard things get, and no matter how dark like your life might seem, or no matter how much you might feel like you don't have anybody, there definitely is always one person who's like definitely watching out for you, whether it's a family member or it's an adult at school. I mean, I think that I was very lucky growing up because I had both. I had, you know, my mom and my brother, and then I had teachers who really cared about me, and I think that was a really nice thing about going to a smaller school in high school. I had teachers who I constantly talked to who knew me outside of me being just a student. And so I think if you're going through a situation like this, just remembering that there is people out there who really, really care about you regardless of how hard life might be. Like someone always wants you to do better and to be better, because life does get better. Life doesn't end in high school. Like you have so many other things to look for. Yeah. I'm gonna start crying now, so I'm gonna walk away. Oh my god. Sorry, I really don't like talking about middle school. But thank you, ladies. This is a really great experience.
Thank you for accepting our documentary. Thank you for coming, taking time out of your day to come and for us to interview us. It really means a lot. Thank you, man.
Of course. Anytime, ladies. You know I love you guys.
Thank you.
What do you hope to achieve in the bullying app?
To change people's mindset
How?
by
What's their mindset now?
every person, their mindset's different. Like they might think differently or like think the same. So I hope to, like if they're the ones bullying, like think about the consequences that bullying has, like them killing themselves or cutting, like self-harming stuff.
Have you ever self-harmed?
No.
Have you had friends who did? And have you ever confronted them why they do it?
My best friend.
And what did they say?
She was like, oh, like I just go through a lot of problems. I just can't do it. And I would give her advice and stuff. And like she would cry. Like, okay, like it's fine. I'll stay over her house for like 2 days.
Got it. What is the mindset you want to change? What do you want people to start thinking?
For them to start thinking differently and see things differently.
Can you give me an example?
Like getting their anger out on like a person. You get me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So getting their anger
Like
out.
Yeah, like if they have problems at home, like they should find some help to help them.
What do you think would help?
Like getting advice and talking to them constantly. Because sometimes they feel alone. Like they don't have no one to talk to. That's why they trigger some other people. And like they bully the ones who are quiet and they know they won't defend themselves.
Got it. So they go after the people who
Are
don't,
weak, yeah.
don't go after, don't retaliate. They're peaceful. Interesting. Wow, it's powerful. So it's changing their mindsets not to take their anger out on peaceful people.
Comfortable, okay?
Okay.
Don't feel nervous. Okay. What was your experience with bullying in high school or middle school?
So for me, in high school, it was more like, because I was like the kid that stayed on task, and I was like one of the smart kids. So for me, when I was in high school, I was always bullied because I was one of the smart ones. And then also because I was like a tall girl, everybody called me Big Bird. And it always bothered me, but like, and then in middle school, I actually got in a fight with a boy. So I was always bullied because my mom forced me to play baseball with boys. And she's like, we're gonna show them that you can play baseball with boys. Because they didn't have a softball team where I grew up. I grew up in Maywood. Back in the day when I was growing up in Maywood, I had to see a lot of different like violence. I saw a lot of abuse, a lot of bullying with like my friends, and unfortunately like a close friend of mine committed suicide because of bullying. And then I'm like, now I can talk about it. Like before I wouldn't be able to talk about these things because it bothered me that much. But like when I was in middle school, my mom it started elementary, a lot of bullying because I wasn't born here. I was born in Mexico. I didn't speak the language. Even the teachers bullied me. They would say things to me, like really derogatory things that they would tell me about my language, like, and they would not allow me to like be me, quote unquote. Like they would say like, why are you speaking in Spanish? You need to speak in English. You're in this country, like things like that would always bother me. And when I got to middle school, my mom said like, you're gonna be in this baseball team no matter what, it doesn't matter what anybody says. Even like the parents would say really bad stuff to me, but I would be like, let me keep pushing. And in middle school, all the boys that were in the baseball team, they would all say like, you suck, you shouldn't even be playing. I was like, I don't suck. I was actually pretty good, but they saw it as a threat, I guess. And so I just got fed. It was one of those days that I just got fed up, like with all the stuff that I would be, all the name calling, all the different things. And I know I shouldn't have resorted to violence, but I just didn't know how else to express it and who to go to be able to help me with the situation. Because I didn't have that. There was no one really. I felt alone, like with this. And so I didn't know who to go and talk to about these things, like other than my mom, but I didn't want to bother my mom either. So I think that happens a lot, like that we feel like alone, and it happens to a lot of people, but you can tell someone about these things so you should feel comfortable to tell an adult or someone. But I didn't, and I can sincerely say that I didn't have anyone, like there wasn't really anyone when I was growing up that really cared about it. Like I didn't have like an adult that really cared like of all our well-being, like at least where I grew up and like the schools that I went to. So unfortunately, like that day I just got fed up and I just like, he threw, so it was like a ball of paper, like he was like throwing little balls of paper to me. Like, and then he like made it bigger, and then he made it bigger, and then he made it bigger. But he kept throwing those balls, and then he would pick them up, and then he like would make it a little bigger, and then throw it at me again, and then the same thing. And the teacher wasn't really doing anything, and like, so I ended up just like, and all the other guys were telling me stuff, and they were in the same class, we were all in the same class. And then I was just like, I can't do this anymore. So like I turned around and I started telling him all this stuff. Like, I'm not gonna say what he was telling me because it's not appropriate, but, and then I just like pushed them, like I lost total control. Like some of it I don't remember what I did, but I heard that it was pretty bad. And like I pinned them. I do remember I pinned him against the wall and I was just like hitting his temple like super hard. And like I just went crazy pretty much like after that. And like the teacher thought that it was two guys fighting. And like, so like, hey, like, like I finally like I snapped out of it and like I was like, what am I doing? Like, where am I? Like I remember where I was at. I remember what I was doing. And then like the teacher came up to us and they're like, wait, you're fighting? Like what's happening? Like I don't understand, why are you doing this? So then I ended up like, I was so scared after that. I was just like, oh my God, like I'm gonna get kicked out, like all this stuff, right? My mom's gonna beat me. Like I was thinking the worst. And he's like, you know what? I'm not gonna report you. I'm not gonna report this. I'm just gonna give you like, he literally, because it was like an English class and a reward was to get a lollipop if we said something like that. We answered a question or something. So then he gave me like a full bag of lollipops and he's like, here you go. That's awesome that you defended yourself. And I'm just like, but that still doesn't solve the problem. It still didn't solve the problem. Like, and then after that, like I would get like still bullied and then like everybody would like bully me about that incident because they're like, oh no, don't tell her anything so she's gonna like go AWOL on you or she's gonna snap, or she's gonna do something to you. And then like, so then after that, like kind of like had that reputation that I was gonna snap at people or I was gonna do that. So they would kind of like back off from me. And then like when I got to high school, I was like the cool, like the smart, one of the smart kids, the nerd, right? Like, and like everybody would make fun of me because of that. And then one day, like, I didn't do anything, but I did speak up and I said, well, I pretty much said, like, if you don't want to be if you don't want to be someone, then let me be, let me be someone if you don't want to be someone. Like, I'm not, like, I'm not even bothering you, so just let me be, like. And they're just like, they got scared because they're like, oh, she's gonna take off on someone, like. But no, like I learned from that, and I just was like, you know what, I'm not gonna stoop myself to that level. I can be stronger. I can move on from the situation, and fortunately, I didn't let it bother me as much as other people, like as much as like that friend that unfortunately passed away. But yeah, like I experienced it like from when I got to this country, like when I started going to school, all the way to like when I was in high school. I mean, I experienced it a little bit in college, but not as much. In college, it was a totally different thing. When I was in college, I think it was a lot more of like what's going on right now and like our climate, like the political climate of like more racism and stuff like that. So it wasn't, I mean, that's a totally different topic, but for me, like it was hard. It was definitely hard because I didn't know who to go to, who to talk about it, who was gonna be my support for that. So, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, I don't get bullied as much anymore now that I'm in high school. But in middle school, it was like a on again, off again type of thing. Like, way, mostly, because, when you're bigger, they tend to say more, like, rude things. Um, but now that I'm in high school, it just doesn't really matter anymore. People say things, but it's more of like they say it and then they leave. Like, it's not like a constant, like, nagging, picking on me kind of thing anymore.
Okay. But at one point in time, you did experience sustained, targeted bullying against you.
Yeah, when I was in middle school, like 6th grade to 8th grade.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the experience? What was it like when you first got bullied? What was that like?
I kept to myself mostly because I was in a new school. Like, I had just moved out here. So I just kept to myself. So I guess it was a bigger target, not because I didn't have any friends, like, to stand up for me. And I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to get in trouble. So I guess it's just something that's over with now, so I'm happy.
Yeah. And what inspired you to get involved with the bullying project?
Well, because I know what it is. Like, I don't want other people to go through it, so I try. I wanted to be a part of it because it's a bigger picture than just me and a group of friends. It's like a whole community helping and wanting us to succeed and in helping people who are bullied. So,
Do you see a lot of bullying take place at your school?
in a way, yeah. It's not like a constant, but you do see it a lot, but not with the same person. It's not you keep going back to the same person. It's everyone. It's not just one person getting constantly picked on.
You're saying that in your school you witness a lot of people getting bullied all over. It just becomes normal.
Yeah.
Got it. What got you to want to do something different?
Well, I'm in Women of Color Leadership, and it's kind of our goal to help our community, like, be united and, like, not be stereotypical, because in our community it's a lot of browns and blacks, so they already think of us badly. So being in the class just helped us, like, help our community.
What are some of the worst things you've seen in terms of bullying?
There's a lot of name calling, like people being called, like, I can say it. Like, people being called gay asses or bitches, and, like, it's seen as funny, but it really isn't. Like, it's really rude, and that's how our community sees it.
And when you say your community, what do you mean by that? Who's your community?
Like middle school to 12th grade, they see it as a joke, and it's not. It's really serious. Like, the black and brown community in Watts, Compton, Los Angeles, like, you can even go as far as Chicago, and, like, every place, there's our age group thinks it's funny, and it's not.
How do you know when it's not funny? And how do you know, like obviously you've experienced it, so you know on the inside it's not funny. But how do you know when other people feel like, you know what I mean? Because everyone's going to laugh it off, but how do you know as a student group that it's actually not funny on the inside?
Well, you see a lot of suicides from bullying and a lot of gun violence. Like, you see people coming shooting up schools because of what someone in the school had said to them, or there's a lot of different things that happen after the fact, and we just need to see the signs before it actually happens.
Do you have friends, or do you have friends that you've personally known who's taken their lives from bullying?
I know of a person, He wasn't close to me, but I know my sister. My sister's best friend was like his cousin, and he took his life because of bullying.
And what do you hope to accomplish in this project for the bullying app?
The bullying app and Growth Builder layers are helping us because it's a lot of voice. It's more people, so one, you know, like one can change 100, 10 can change 1,000. Everyone who's helping with us is changing one person, so we can help them. So I feel like the group is helping bullying because there's more voices being heard.
And how about what are some personal challenges you feel? Do you feel overwhelmed at times doing this?
I don't. I feel worried sometimes because I know they're not going to take it serious. Some of them won't take it serious because there's a lot of times where schools talk about bullying and they want to prevent it and everything, but it doesn't seem serious, so the kids don't take it serious.
So you're saying that when it's being presented to the student population, sometimes the presentation doesn't sound serious?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are some things you want to change? What are, moving forward in this project, how do you think this bullying app can solve that, like not taking bullying seriously?
Well, with the app, it helps people like report the incident. So there's more statistics showing that the problems. So I feel like with it helps because they know exactly what's happening and they can see it.
Okay. What do you hope to accomplish by having people see what's going on?
Well, I hope the numbers go down for like who's being bullied, and I want people like to actually look around at their surroundings, because people don't really look around and they don't really see people getting bullied, but you know it's there.
So you're saying you just want people to care more, to pay attention. Why do you think people don't pay attention even if it's there?
Because, I don't know. There's no reasonable answer I can think of. When I know why they don't report it.
Why don't they?
Because we don't want to be called snitches. We don't want to get made fun of because we couldn't take a joke.
And so those classes meet for an hour and 25 minutes, 3 times a week. And the idea, theoretically, was this is a perfect space to provide that homey environment and to check in with students and make sure they're getting that social emotional support. But that was hard to manage as well. I mean, it's a big expectation, but we're also not provided necessarily with the training to do that and to make sure that you're not opening this can of worms that then you're not sure, now I have these kids crying in here and really needing support, what do I do? So advisory has become a little bit more focused to the college track again, right? And making sure our students able to graduate from high school, and then are they going to go to school, to a good school or to a college or 4-year university. So with all that in mind, I did my best. A couple years ago, 3 years ago now, we started the Women of Color Leadership class at Animo Watts, and it's exactly that. It takes place during the advisory block, so we meet 3 times a week for an hour and 20 minutes, and it started just with a lot of that restorative piece of getting team building, getting to know each other, understanding that we all make mistakes, but that it's about how we fix those mistakes and making sure that we're slowly building a sisterhood and a community built on trust and care for one another.